Okay, in today's episode I'm going to tell you about two different things you should keep in mind when you're shooting at the beach. First is the tide, and the second is the shore break. Okay, part one, the tides. First thing you want to do is scope out local beaches and get a tide chart. Here's mine. Always have it with me in my camera bag. Tidelines. Tidelines.com, you can get tide charts for anywhere in the world. So today, it's February 17th. Right there. You see, there's a high tide at 8:30 this morning, and I love shooting at the beach in the morning, but today it would be really bad because there's a new moon, high tide, and if I came out here to my favorite spot on Coronado, like right here, check it out. There's pretty much no beach. If I brought a kid out here with their family, they'd get plowed and pummeled against the rocks because the water comes up and the sand's only exposed for a few seconds at a time between the crashes of the wave. So you've really got to scope out your beaches and know what the tide's going to be on the day of your photo shoot so that you don't come to some beach that is non-existent on a high tide. Okay, let's talk a little bit about low tide. Right now I'm in La Jolla in the afternoon, and there's a significant low tide. I'll show you. This afternoon, February 18th. At 3:49, there's a really low tide, and actually it's still on its way down. So, now some beaches look ultra cool at low tide, and some beaches don't. And it all depends on what your clients want, so you got to find out what they want, read the tide charts for the day where they're booked, and find a day that's going to get them what they want. This beach in La Jolla, for example, you got the pretty sand, but beyond that, it's about 50 to 100 yards of tide pools. It's all tide pools. There's pretty cool little caves over in there, but there's not a lot of sand and waves crashing on the sand, so the textures and the greens and the browns of the tide pools can be cool, but if that's not what your clients want, they're not going to be very happy. So you got to watch those tide charts, make sure you know what you're getting into when you book a session for a certain day and a certain time. So watch your tide chart. Okay, part two of this in a minute is know your shore break. Every beach has a different break, and you've got to find out what kind of pictures your clients want so that you can pick a beach that will give them the kinds of pictures that they want. For example, Coronado has a really long sweeping beach. Check it out. The waves break way out there past the shoreline, and then they come in really slow and lulling. This is the kind of beach that's good for little kids because they don't get pounded. La Jolla, for example, the waves break really close to the shore, which is really dramatic and cool maybe for engagement shots and adults, but for kids it's really dangerous if you get close to the break. They could get swept away in an undertow. Coronado, though, has this really long, sweeping, gentle break, so the waves come in really slowly at the shoreline, and then they go back really slowly. Sometimes a kid can still get surprised by a set that comes in really fast, but you're less likely to get some kid pounded by a wave on a break like this than on a break like La Jolla where the waves crash right by the shore. Okay, another cool thing about this break here on Coronado is because it's so long and sweeping, the waves really stay on the sand a long time. Unlike La Jolla where it gets pounded and then it goes right back out, Coronado they come in, they stick around for a long time, then they go back out. Let's check it out. See, the waves come in really slow, they soak in on the water, they soak in on the sand, and the sand really holds it there. So this is the kind of beach where you get those reflection shots of the reflections of the people underneath them because the sand has been soaked. Because these waves come in so slow and really soak the water into the sand. Unlike La Jolla where it just pounds and then goes right back out. Another thing you want to make sure you get if you want those reflection pictures is you have to get the tide. See, it's back to the tides again. You got to get the tide when it's on its way down. Like in the tide calendar, you got to be on a downslope with that tide because that means the tide's been soaking in the sand that whole time. So you've just had a high tide where the water's coming in and soaking that sand in, and now it's going down. So you're getting on sand that's been soaked for hours and hours and hours, and it's saturated and it gets you that reflection. Dry sand doesn't make a reflection. Plus you want to pick a beach that has this smooth shore break where the sand really sticks in there. Then you can get those reflection shots. Because the wave comes in really slowly, soaks in the water, and then it goes back out and you can get that reflection. I don't have anybody here to show it to you, but this is the kind of beach where you get those reflections. Okay, one more thing to take into consideration when you're shooting at the beach, is if there's not enough already, the kind of sand that's at the beach where you're shooting. Every beach has a different kind of sand and it really affects the kind of photos you're going to get. But more on that in our next episode.